I am 34 years old, the oldest of five, and am married with one child. My wife and I keep our finances separate. She knows I have money, but I don't think she realizes how much I have put away over the years. My siblings, in-laws, and parents are awful with money. They buy a new vehicle every couple of years that they can barely afford, spend money on unnecessary stuff and vacations. Recently, my sister told me her car is 3 months behind, and she keeps borrowing money from my parents to pay it. My parents told me they maxed out their credit card and aren't sure how to go about it. They didn't mention the amount. My in-laws said money is tight and are 4 months behind on their mortgage. My brother says he defaulted on a $4,000 loan that sounded like a predatory loan. It makes me sick to think about, especially when they confide in me these things, and I feel like I should help them because I can, but I worry about being taken advantage of. I also feel like they put themselves in these situations. My parents have plenty of toys, boats, kayaks, 2X campers, etc. they could sell. My in-laws both drive very expensive SUVs, including a new BMW X5. My sister put a whole trip overseas on a credit card. I watch them spend money in shops. One has 4 6 Stanley water bottles because they want colors to match their outfit. Meanwhile, I have everything paid off besides the house. I have $82,000 in savings and $250,000 in a retirement account. My income is very good, and I think my family suspects that because they know what I do for work. I was planning on continuing to save and buy a Boxster cash, obviously keep some left over. But my guilt factor is telling me I should help family before getting the fancy car I've been wanting. I would hate for my in-laws to lose the house and have my nieces and nephews on the street or worse while I drive a new car around. I also, as bad as it sounds, don't want anyone moving in with me. To add, I am glad to see I'm not the one at fault for this. Me criticizing them in my head makes me feel like a jerk. Almost forgot. I guess I realized I complained more about their spending and didn't really mention the other stuff going on. They have issues like a furnace that broke and only works at 30%, so their house gets super cold during the winter. So much so they had blankets everywhere and moved the kids downstairs. My nieces and nephews have medical issues that have not been taken care of. They miss out on after-school activities because no one can pay for it. If my sister loses the car, she loses her ability to get to work as she chose to move to a big city where she knows no one and has a 45-minute commute to work. If anything, the guilt mainly comes from not taking care of my nieces and nephews and blaming their parents. And I just don't want people to be homeless. About 14 years ago, I slept in my car for a month during winter with only $100 in my bank account while I tried to save up for a deposit for an apartment. I only made $8.75 an hour then. It was miserable, cold, and embarrassing. I remember going to Quick Trip for hot food because I was tired of protein bars, bread, and peanut butter. These teenagers hit my car with snowballs and ice, waking me up once, and then were like, "Oh shoot, someone is sleeping in there," and said other things that made me sick. I know I didn't give out too much information, but I was kind of surprised about being criticized for my own actions. To answer some questions/concerns, yes, I have a 529 setup for the kid. They are 4 and they are set, even if college rates continue to rise. The company I worked for paid 3 years of my college, and it was a tremendous help. It's not my money, so I didn't list it. I have $40,000 in non-liquid assets. I make $175,000 a year, which included a $50,000 raise I got 3 years ago, and I never changed my spending habits. It helped me greatly build my savings in both my retirement and normal life and pay off the truck and camper. I owe less than $190,000 on a $300,000 home. The Boxster is a plan which the kid is in school, and I am not paying $1,000 a month in childcare. I don't plan on blowing all my savings on it, more than likely used $40,000. $50,000. Some may think pay off the house or that it's stupid to buy, but I'm a big car enthusiast and it would be great to own. Also, it's not a Boxster, it's something else. But I worry someone would catch on because I've talked about it a lot. My wife and I have been together 10 years. We've kept finances separate. Both of our parents have fought about money or made it a big deal, so we stick with separate. She sends me half the mortgage and utilities every month. I cover groceries and childcare in full. It works. We do have a joint account we put money into for house, child stuff that comes up. I have a health savings account I open for medical bills and put money into every paycheck. Every medical bill that has come up, that account has covered. My company matches a good amount too. To sum up, I didn't mention this because I felt it wasn't relevant. The $82,000 is mainly my money I have that I could use to help family rather than blow it on myself. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Not the idiot. Their financial issues are not caused by circumstances outside of their control. It is not like they are drowning in medical debt. They have overspent on needless luxuries. If you help them, you will 100% be taken advantage of. I don't even think they will do it deliberately. They just lack the knowledge and habits to act any differently. Giving them cash doesn't fix their financial mindset, discipline issues. Comment 2. Not the idiot. I hate to break it to you, but you really are just one long layoff away from losing your savings. Do not give your family money. You need to continue to prioritize saving your money. Remember, the years will go quickly and college for your kid is going to cost money. Now, for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for sticking with me. So a lot has happened over the past 3 days. It all started when my sister called me in a panic. Her car had finally been repossessed, and she was in tears saying she didn't know how she was going to get to work. I felt a knot in my stomach because I knew this was coming, but hearing her so desperate made it real. I told her I'd think about what I could do and get back to her. The next day, my wife and I had a long talk about everything. She knew about my family's financial issues but didn't realize how bad it had gotten. I laid it all out for her, from my sister's car to my parents' maxed out credit cards and my in-laws' mortgage troubles. She listened quietly, and then she said something that really hit me. She asked, "Do you think helping them will actually solve their problems? Or will it just be a temporary fix?" That question stuck with me. Later that day, I got a call from my mom. She was frantic because my dad had been taken to the hospital with chest pains. I rushed over there, and thankfully it turned out to be a false alarm. But sitting in that hospital waiting room, I had a lot of time to think. I realized that my family's financial stress was affecting their health, and that scared me. When I got home, I found my wife sitting at the kitchen table with a bunch of papers spread out. She had been going through our finances, and she had a proposal. She suggested that instead of just giving my family money, we could help them create a budget and maybe even set up a family emergency fund that everyone could contribute to. It was a more sustainable solution, and it would teach them to manage their money better. The next day, I called a family meeting. Everyone showed up, and I could see the worry on their faces. I explained my wife's idea and how we could help each other out without just throwing money at the problem. My sister was skeptical, my parents were embarrassed, and my in-laws were just quiet. But I pushed through, explaining that this was the only way I could see to help them without enabling their bad habits. My sister finally broke down and admitted that she felt like a failure. She said she had always looked up to me and felt ashamed to ask for help. That was a turning point for me. I realized that my family wasn't just bad with money, they were also dealing with a lot of emotional baggage. My parents admitted they had never been good with finances and had always hoped things would just work out. My in-laws said they felt pressured to keep up appearances, which is why they bought the expensive SUVs. We spent the rest of the day going through everyone's finances. It was exhausting, but it was also eye-opening. My parents agreed to sell some of their toys to pay down their credit card debt. My sister decided to move back closer to home to cut down on her commute and save on rent. My in-laws agreed to downgrade their vehicles to more affordable options. The most surprising part was when my wife offered to help my sister find a reliable used car. She even went with her to the dealership to make sure she got a good deal. That gesture meant a lot to my sister, and it showed me how much my wife cared about my family, even though she had her reservations. As we were wrapping up, my mom pulled me aside and thanked me. She said she had always been proud of me, but never realized how much I had grown up. That meant a lot to me, and it made me feel like I was doing the right thing. But before I get into that, let me tell you about the fallout. My sister's move was tough on her kids, but they adjusted quickly. They were happier being closer to family, and my sister found a job nearby that paid just as well. My parents sold their boat and one of their campers, which helped them pay off a significant chunk of their debt. My in-laws traded in their BMW for a more affordable car, and they managed to catch up on their mortgage payments. The most significant change, though, was in how we all communicated. We started having monthly family meetings to check in on each other's progress and offer support. It wasn't always smooth sailing, but it felt like we were finally moving in the right direction. Now let me give you a bit of backstory that I think is relevant. Growing up, my parents never talked about money. It was always a taboo subject, and I think that's part of why they ended up in such a mess. My dad worked long hours and my mom stayed home with us kids. They did their best, but they never really learned how to manage their finances. I remember one time when I was about 10, my dad came home with a brand new TV. My mom was furious because they couldn't afford it, but my dad just shrugged and said, "We'll figure it out." That was their approach to money, and it never really changed. My in-laws, on the other hand, always seemed to have money. My wife grew up in a nice house, went on fancy vacations, and had all the latest gadgets. But it turns out they were living way beyond their means. They took out loans to pay for everything, and now it's all catching up with them. My wife told me that her parents always made her feel like they had to keep up appearances, and that's why she was so determined to keep our finances separate. She didn't want us to fall into the same trap. So that's where we are now. It's been a tough few days, but I feel like we're finally on the right track. Thanks for reading. Am I the idiot for refusing to change my wedding date? After my mother purposely booked her honeymoon to avoid it, so my partner, 29-year-old female, and I, 32-year-old female, have been engaged for over 2 years. We've told people that we're planning the wedding for next May. I have just started formally planning a few weeks ago. Venues and caterers have been chosen, a date has been set, but save the date cards haven't been sent, and down payments haven't been paid yet. Context for our choice of month. Having an outdoor May wedding is pretty much the only thing we've been sure of since the engagement. We want an outdoor wedding, so the months from October to March are off the table. Venues in my area are more expensive in the summer months, June, July, August, and while we are stable, we are not well off. September and April are big months for birthdays, including both of ours. Additionally, I am a professor, so April is a hectic month for me as it is exam time in our country, and I'm typically grading until the early hours of the night. So that left us with May. The issue? I am spending so much time explaining our choice of month because it turns out my mother, in her 60s, and her new husband, in their 60s, will be honeymooning all of next May. My mother and I have a fine relationship, but we aren't particularly close. I have told her 100% that we were planning for May, but she obviously doesn't remember. My mother has made a payment for her honeymoon. I only found out about her honeymoon this weekend, and when I called to tell her the date was set, her wedding was this year. She keeps texting me alternative dates that we could have the wedding. But, and here's where I might be seen as unreasonable, I don't want to. I like the date we've chosen. We put a lot of thought into this. She is right, we could change it without any cost to us. But other months don't work well for various reasons. I did offer to compromise by moving it to early May and have her push her honeymoon back a few days, but this was rejected. This date will be our anniversary for the rest of our life. It will be the day where we schedule extra special weekends away and fancy dinners. The date of a honeymoon isn't as special. She could change it if she wanted. It is also worth noting here that the two of them are very well off. For context, they own 3 homes and go on international vacations at least twice a year. Moving the honeymoon after placing a down payment will be inconvenient, but it will not hurt them financially, and they have almost a year's notice to reschedule it. Additionally, my fiancé and I are paying for the wedding entirely ourselves. That being said, they do have a down payment, and we don't. They have had this date set longer than us. And it is a honeymoon, not just a regular vacation. Also, it's not like a cousin can't go. It's my mother. Should I change the date for her? I do want her there. I am honestly not sure if I am being unreasonable here, but other months truly don't work nearly as well. Am I the jerk? Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Not the idiot. You told them it would be in May and all of a sudden they are taking a honeymoon over a year after getting married? Okay, whatever. That's not a honeymoon, it's a power trip. Go ahead with your wedding and don't feel guilty. I would feel relieved that my attention-seeking mother would be absent from my big day. Comment 2. Not the idiot. Even if she forgot the exact date, did she know that your wedding was sometime in the spring? and didn't bother to verify with you before putting down deposits? I'm guessing no, because there was a chance she'd be asked to change her own plans. Now, for the update, thanks for all the comments from the last post. So after a lot of back and forth with my mom about the wedding date, things took an unexpected turn. 2 weeks ago, my partner and I were having dinner with my mom and her new husband to discuss the situation face to face. I thought maybe if we talked in person, we could come to some sort of compromise. But during the dinner, my mom dropped the news. She revealed that she had actually booked the honeymoon date specifically to avoid our wedding. She said she felt like she needed a break from family obligations and wanted to enjoy her new marriage without any distractions. This revelation hit me like a ton of bricks. I had always known that my mom and I weren't particularly close, but I never thought she would go to such lengths to avoid my wedding. My partner was equally shocked and tried to mediate, suggesting that maybe we could find a way to make both events work. But my mom was adamant. She said she needed this time for herself and her new husband, and that was that. After that dinner, I felt a mix of anger and sadness. I couldn't believe my own mother would prioritize her honeymoon over my wedding. My partner and I talked about it for hours, and we decided that we wouldn't change our date. We had put so much thought into it, and it was the best option for us. But the whole situation left me feeling really hurt and questioning my relationship with my mom. The next day, I got a call from my aunt, who had heard about the dinner from my mom. She was sympathetic and offered to help with the wedding planning in any way she could. She even suggested that we could have a small family gathering before the wedding, so my mom could still be involved in some way. I appreciated the gesture, but it didn't really solve the underlying issue. As the days went by, I started to notice a change in my partner. She became more distant and seemed preoccupied with something. I asked her if everything was okay, and she assured me that it was just work stress. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something else was going on. One evening, I came home to find her sitting on the couch, staring at her phone with a troubled expression. I asked her what was wrong, and she finally opened up. She admitted that she had been feeling conflicted about the wedding ever since the dinner with my mom. She said that seeing my mom's reaction had made her realize how important family was to her, and she was worried that our wedding would be overshadowed by the family drama. She also confessed that she had been having second thoughts about whether we were ready for marriage, given all the stress and tension. This was a huge blow to me. I had always thought we were on the same page about the wedding and our future together. Hearing her doubts made me question everything. We had a long emotional conversation about our relationship and what we wanted for the future. We both agreed that we needed to take a step back and really think about what was best for us. In the midst of all this, I got a call from my dad, who I hadn't spoken to in years. He had heard about the situation from my aunt and wanted to offer his support. We had a long conversation about our past and why we had drifted apart. He apologized for not being there for me and said he wanted to make amends. It was a lot to process, but it felt good to finally have that conversation. As the days went by, my partner and I continued to talk about our relationship and the wedding. We decided to go to couples therapy to work through our issues and make sure we were making the right decision. It was a tough process, but it helped us understand each other better and address some of the underlying issues that had been causing tension. During one of our therapy sessions, my partner revealed that she had always felt like she was living in the shadow of my mom. She said that my mom's disapproval had made her feel like she wasn't good enough for me, and that had been weighing on her for a long time. This was a huge revelation for me. I had never realized how much my mom's opinion had affected her. It made me see the situation in a whole new light and understand why she had been feeling so conflicted. We also talked about my relationship with my mom and how it had impacted me. I realized that I had been seeking her approval for so long, and it had affected my self-esteem and my relationships. It was a painful realization, but it helped me understand why I had been so hurt by her actions. In the end, we decided to move forward with the wedding as planned. We knew it wouldn't be easy, but we were committed to making it work. We also decided to set some boundaries with my mom and focus on building a stronger relationship with each other. As for my dad, we continued to talk and work on rebuilding our relationship. It was a slow process, but it felt good to have him back in my life. He even offered to help with the wedding, which was a nice gesture. So that's where things stand now. It's been a challenging few weeks, but I feel like we've come out stronger on the other side. Thanks for reading and for all your support. Am I the idiot for giving away my friend's ticket after she canceled and demanded a refund? I'm in a spat with a friend of mine, Sally. A few weeks ago, Sally and I, along with another friend, decided to go see one of our favorite comedians. We agreed on a date, I bought the tickets, and they each sent me the money for their ticket. The tickets were $100 each. Good venue, good seats, prominent/famous comedian. Late last week, Sally told me she couldn't go anymore due to a scheduling conflict with her work that she had misscheduled. She asked if there was any way I could send her the $100 back. Because the ticket is non-refundable, I told Sally that I would send her the money back if someone else could buy the ticket for me, or if Sally could find someone to buy the ticket from her. Sally agreed that was fair. Well, now the show is the day after tomorrow, and I have no takers. One friend, Jane, said she could go, but she couldn't afford the ticket right now. Jane said she fully understood if the ticket went to someone else who could pay, but said she'd be glad to come along if there weren't any takers by showtime and she didn't have to pay. Jane even offered to drive us all and be the designated driver so we could drink at the show in order to contribute as best she could. I basically told Jane that if no one had bought the ticket by the day of the show, it could go to her so it wouldn't be wasted. I followed up with Sally today to tell her no one has wanted to buy the ticket so far, and Sally said she hasn't had any luck either. I told her that if I couldn't sell it by the day of, I would give it to Jane, but that Jane couldn't pay. Sally says that in that case, I should send her $100 because I'm giving away her ticket. I argued that someone should get the ticket if it's going to go unused, but Sally says it's her ticket, and if she wants it to go unused, then it should go unused. Or if she wanted to give it away, she should be the one to give it away. I asked if she would just give it away to Jane on the day of so it wouldn't go unused. But she said no, it's the principle of the thing. She just hates the idea of her ticket that she paid for being given to someone else for free. Would I be the jerk if I just give away the ticket a few hours before showtime? Or am I actually stealing something that doesn't belong to me? To add, the vast majority of you seem to think I am trying to give away the ticket for free. Please read the post. I am trying to sell the ticket and get Sally her money back. I just proposed giving it away as a worst-case scenario. Fortunately, I found a buyer for Sally this morning, which is what I was trying to do all along, obviously, as it already says in this post. Almost forgot. I'm not reading any more comments because they're all the same thing. Haha. Leaving the post up though, since everyone enjoys leaving the same comment on it so much. You're welcome. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. I hate saying it because of the principle of the matter, but you would be the jerk for giving away a ticket that isn't yours to give. Sally paid you back for it, so it's hers to do with as she pleases, and though it sucks to let it go to waste, it wasn't yours to offer for free. Comment 2. I was kind of considering everyone sucks here because I could kind of see your side, even though you were in the wrong. But with how much you're arguing in the comments and refusing to accept judgment or even try to understand the other perspective, you're the jerk. Now for the update. Hey everyone, a lot has happened since the last post. So after I found a buyer for Sally's ticket, I thought everything was settled. I sent Sally her $100 back and she seemed satisfied. But then things took a turn. The buyer, who was a friend of a friend, ended up not being able to go last minute due to a family emergency. I was back to square one with an extra ticket and no time to find another buyer. I decided to give the ticket to Jane since she was still willing to go and drive us. The night of the show, Jane picked us up and we had a great time. The comedian was hilarious and it felt good to laugh and relax. However, the next day, Sally found out that Jane had gone to the show. She was furious. She called me, accusing me of going behind her back and giving away her ticket for free. I tried to explain the situation, but she wouldn't listen. She said I had betrayed her trust and that our friendship was over. This whole situation has been eating at me. I never intended to hurt Sally, but I also didn't want the ticket to go to waste. Jane, on the other hand, has been really supportive. She even offered to pay Sally back when she could, but Sally refused to talk to her. It's been awkward because our friend group is pretty tight-knit, and now there's this tension whenever we're all together. In the midst of all this, I started thinking about why Sally was so upset. I remembered a time in high school when Sally had a similar situation with another friend. They had planned a trip, and at the last minute, the friend couldn't go and gave Sally's spot to someone else. Sally felt left out and hurt, and it took a long time for her to get over it. I think this situation brought back those feelings for her, and she felt like history was repeating itself. Meanwhile, Jane has been trying to make things right. She even suggested we all get together to talk things out. But Sally isn't interested. She said she needs time and space to process everything. I get that, but it's hard not knowing if our friendship will ever be the same. On top of that, I've been dealing with my own feelings of guilt and frustration. I keep replaying the events in my head, wondering if I could have handled things differently. Maybe I should have tried harder to find another buyer, or just given Sally the $100 out of my own pocket. But then I think about how unfair it would have been to Jane, who was willing to help out and be the designated driver. As if things couldn't get more complicated, another friend in our group, Mark, brought up an old incident where Sally had done something similar to him. She had promised to pay him back for a concert ticket but never did. He said he didn't bring it up at the time because he didn't want to cause drama, but now he feels like Sally is being hypocritical. This revelation has added another layer of tension to our group, and I'm not sure how to navigate it. I've also been reflecting on my own actions and how I handle conflicts. I tend to avoid confrontation and hope things will just work themselves out. But this situation has shown me that sometimes you have to face things head on. It's been a tough lesson, but one I needed to learn. In the end, I just want things to go back to normal. I miss hanging out with Sally and not having this cloud of tension hanging over us. I hope that with time, she'll be able to see that I never meant to hurt her and that we can move past this. But for now, all I can do is give her the space she needs and hope for the best. Thanks for reading. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day!